All right, trying to do a Lamia comparison between the Gen 2 and the Gen 4. First, I just want to say thank you to the buddy who sent both of these my way. You know, he knows who he is, and I feel very lucky to have both of these in my possession because these are very hard to come by. They sell out in minutes or even faster. I wasn't able to get one myself. And cool story, I had this. This is my personal knife now, but a couple months ago when these first dropped, the Gen 2 in crewwear, just out of the blue, this knife showed up in my mailbox, and 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 the buddy told me, hey, check it out. If you like it, you can have it for the retail, which just blew me away because, he can easily flip this for, I don't know, a couple $100 profit. So again, really appreciate it. And also like recently he was able to grab the latest drop Gen 4. And he was so nice, also sent this my way for me to check out, see how I like it. So this video is mainly for this buddy because I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not a knife reviewer. I watch knife reviews and, just gonna try my best and make some comparisons. So some backstory, right? SPK make this Lamia, and this is Gen 2, I think the last gen where there's no melt pocket on the handle or the titanium near the pivot area for bearings. And Gen 3 is when, the makers start milling the pockets. And also, if you were to use washers, the washer's diameter is a little bit wider. So part of the washer would ride on the pocket itself, though, so there's no actual contact, and outer portion of that washer will contact the handle, which that's Gen 3, that is. And this is the Gen 4, where I think he changed some like the handle, there's like contour, right, as you can see here. I think Gen 3 is still like this flat titanium, and Gen 4 he start to add this contouring. And also, if you can tell, like the lock bar cutout is deeper on the Gen 4, meaning there's less meat left on this lock bar compares to the Gen 2, the previous gen. And he changed his logo from being on the blade to on the clip. I'm not sure if you were able to see, but it's milled here. This finishing is really like covering the mill, but there's no more millings here. And you can see this is in LMAX. But overall, I think, honest opinion, Gen 2 is where Lamia hit his peak by far. I think having a washer riding on a non-solid surface, Gen 3 and Gen 4 is not a good idea. It's just, does it gonna make a difference? Probably not in terms of like your daily, everyday use, but it bothers me knowing there's a pocket there beneath the washer. So the surface contact area is just not where it should be, if you will. And for bearings, I know he's trying to accommodate more of a wider market where people just, you know, where it's just titanium frame lock on bearings is just like a given at nowadays market, and I think it's a little bit sad. You know, I'm never a fan. Being a fan of bearings. I'm a washer fan, and you know, I'm the guy who would go out my way and swap bearings to skiff thick washers. This guy runs on Foster Brown's washers, and the action is just it's just fantastic. You know, there's nothing compares to a well broken in Foster Brown's washer action, if you will. It's smooth, it's hydraulic, and it's like glass riding at glass. You know, you never get that feel out of a bearing, knife on bearing. So, but I guess, yeah, you know, now it has like so-called drop shot action. You know, people, I don't know why people associate the quality of a knife with how the knife closes. I mean, you know, it doesn't really make sense to me. You know, a well broken in knife on washers will drop shot on you, right? But it doesn't, if it doesn't drop shot, it doesn't really bother me. It just, I don't know, it's not a thing for me, whether the knife drop shot or not. It's not a thing. But because many people tend to love the drop shot action, you know, now his knife will, by default, will ship him in bearings, with bearing installed, and also like he uses skiff bearings. So I think best the bearing system in the game, one of the best. You know, I think Sinkovich and Sheargraph's bearing and their roller bearing systems are a little bit step above, if you will, but for a widely available bearing system, Skiff is definitely the best. So yeah, I guess that's pleased most audience. So enough on the bearing system, but let's just take a look at this new gen here. Couple things I noticed right away is that because of this contouring, right? So previously you will see this screw, the pivot screw sits flush on both sides everywhere, right? And because now there's a contouring, you know, part of the screw will, you know, stick out, you know, the lower portion of it. And this side as well. And yeah, you'll be able to see. Sorry about my crappy camera, just iPhone 12. And what I also noticed is that this side, the screw is sticking a little bit higher than this side, which I don't know if is the difference between these two screw, or it's because this side, the drilling, well, the drilling is not as steep as the other side. But you know, I do notice a difference. This side is sticks out a little slightly higher than this side. You know, it's just adding more complexity by add the contouring. There's just a lot more stuff you need to pay attention. The detent is, to me, almost unpleasantly strong. It's just very strong. It just suck the blade in when you close it. You hear that? It's just, and when you open it, it hurts my middle finger. And I mean, once it breaks the detent, it just flies out. But I think it's just gonna keep hammering that stop pin, and I don't know the longevity of that stop pin, but you know, even the action itself, like now you really can't open this knife slowly without you pay too much, a lot attention to it. You know, it feels like the detent hull is like grabbing that detent ball. Like it's not pleasant for me personally. But, you know, this is Gen 2, much more muted, you know, smooth. I don't need to think about it if I want to, you know, open it slowly in an office setting, in a post office, right? If I want to flip it, I can flip it. I'm not hurting my middle finger here. It's just more natural, if you will, more organic. This guy feels like, yeah, this thing is intended you to open it only one way. That is to middle finger flip it, or spidey flip it. Which, not really a big fan, but, you know, just personal preference. A couple more details from the outside that I noticed is that right now the backspacer sits a little bit lower, so you can feel more of the scale sticking out. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, but you see here, this is the Gen 2, right? Almost flush, but not quite. By design, though. But this has like sits even lower than the previous gen. I'm not sure the reason behind it. I don't have a preference on that. You know, it's just different. The meat of the lock bar now is less. So, you know, the lock bar strength really only depends on its weakest point, which is, you know, this thin line of titanium. Excuse me. Which, you know, under normal use, it would be fine. But I would prefer more meat left on that lock bar. Just give me that extra sense of, I don't know, security, or I know there's more meat there, it's more beefy, you know, there's less tendency to buckle out, which probably never happens, but, you know, we're talking about perfection versus perfection here. You know, these knives are aiming for perfection, and I think I have every right to be nitpicky. And I think, you know, as the owner of SPK, you know, he would, if he knows, he wouldn't mind, because these are honest opinions, and he seems to be always improve his method of manufacturing, and I think he would appreciate some of the honest feedback. Another thing would be the lock face angle. The newer one seems to be a little bit flatter, which allows a more lock bar engagement, which I think is a move towards the right direction. I think I would love to see more lock bar engagement on my Gen 2, but it will break it in. But it will break in. But, you know, this guy, the lock insert is almost 100% fully engaged to that lock tank, which is a good thing, in my opinion. And also, especially with the replaceable lock bar insert, if it's ever wears out, which not in a decade or two, I would guess, hardened AEBL, you know, it's not going anywhere. I think it's a good move that he allows more lock bar engagement right now, more of a secure lock, less tendency of slip. Yeah, I think kudos on that. A couple more just finishing differences, right? You see this part? This is Gen 4, so it's more rounded, right? So whatever tumbling he's using, or he's like sanding this down, just rounding this down a little bit before tumbling it. I'm not sure. It's definitely more aggressive than the previous gen, where it's like you can see a well-defined line here, right? You can see a line here. Right now it's just like rounded, very rounded. And it's all over, like on the spine, like extend to here until, you know, the lock bar cut out, the lock face. If you were to ask me, I honestly prefer this guy. I prefer previously like a well-defined line here versus this guy. This guy feels like how do I phrase it? Feels like the following up step to cover up some of the less than perfection machining. It's like a mask over something, which definitely, I guess, is definitely not the case, because the guy knows how to machine. He's very heavily invested in his machining knowledge, and so I think it's not, because it's just a design choice, I guess, which just my personal preference. I would prefer this guy. Feels more defined, feels more uniform, if you will. It just feels more pleasing to the eye. Not like this. This is rounded and then a more defined line. Another difference would be the finish. This finish is really rough. Feels like a sandpaper, like I don't know, 500 grit, 600 grit sandpaper. It's like a very rough sandblast. Think about Chris Reeve sandblast when it's brand new, a little bit rougher, because this has the micro diagonal milling, which you are not be able to see through my crappy camera. Yeah, but it's just pretty rough. I'm not sure if you can see it, hear it. I can polish my nail on it, but this guy is smoother. It's like a well worn in CRK feeling, if you will. It's like you carry the knife in your pocket for a year or so. The original sandblast just wear it out, and this is how it feels. I prefer this feel. Easier in the hand, easier to your pants. Yeah, I don't think this knife needs any extra grip or extra jimping or friction to be secure in your hand. So this D10, but it's not bothering me too much, but it's not a very pleasing feel touching it before it totally wear in, but it is what it is. But yeah, other than that, I think I covered most, if not all, differences. There might be some changes in terms of the internal milling, which I'm not gonna cover because I don't really want to disassemble this knife. Well, know that I just found out, like, there's, you hear that? It feels like the stop pin is like, it's like wiggling. It's like the stop pin is not long enough to be contacting the scale on both sides. So it's like just knocking around. I'm just, hopefully my phone is able to capture it. Solid. Solid. Okay, one more things I don't like about Gen 4. But centering is dead on. I appreciate he CNC milled his knives. So this grind, quote unquote grind, is totally even if his math or his machine is doing the right thing, and perfect centering, which is always a plus. I've seen so many knives, even from CRK, off center because the grind is off, which would definitely bother me to death. I'm a little bit OCD on centering, but man, this is one of my favorite knives, especially on washers. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the differences and my not really review. I'm not using this knife, but just first impressions. And hopefully my buddy likes it. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you see we share some of the common points that we always talk about through our chat. But yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, have a good one.